Welcome back, everyone. It's In the Trenches with your host, Will Ortner, a part of the Couch GM Network. We're going to go through some winners and losers of the last week in the NFL for your NFL Week 2 recap. We'll rank them bronze, silver, gold on each. And then if there's anything else that I want to touch on, we'll jump right into that. So thank you guys so much, and we're going to get right into the video.
Oh, look at this run. What a run. Marshawn Lynch still on his feet. Has blockers now. He's dancing his way for the touchdown.
So as we're going through, I think it's fair that we look at the good first. So we're going to jump right into the winners. I think a pretty easy winner that everyone can jump on and accept as being one of the top winners out there is the New Orleans Saints. Right now, you're 2-0. You just went into Dallas. You won 44-19. Alvin Kamara looks like he's returned back to old Alvin Kamara. He had a 4 TD day. Derek Carr looked fantastic. Right now, in every drive that Derek Carr has started on the field, I believe that's 15, the Saints have ended with touchdowns. So right now, Derek Carr in 15 touchdowns, 15 drives. That's an absolutely historic pace that they're going at. So if you're a Saints fan, you kind of feel like you've been stuck in cap hell, right? We're good enough to like kind of compete in the South because the South isn't that great, but we're not really a Super Bowl contender. And if we were in a normal division, we're really not a playoff contender. Maybe we get in, maybe we don't. We're never high enough to get a good pick. It doesn't feel like the picks are turning into things. People keep getting older and older and older. And all of a sudden now it feels like, hey, you're 2-0. Your offense is clicking on all cylinders, and you have a pretty dang good defense as well. So if you're a New Orleans Saints fan, I feel like you got to be riding really, really high right now. And so I'd say the Saints, that gets my bronze.
For the touchdown!
My silver winner of the weekend, it's got to go to the Arizona Cardinals. Your offense is electric. 41-10 victory over the Rams. You're 1-1 right now on the season. You went toe-to-toe with Buffalo, who that's going to be a playoff team, possibly the number one team in the AFC. A lot of experts had the Rams as potentially sneaking in as a wild card team this year. You just took care of business and you beat them emphatically. I understand that they had a bunch of injuries, but at the same time, you still won against an in-division opponent. You put up 14, 10, 10, and then you kind of call off the dogs in the fourth quarter for 7. Also, Marvin Harrison Jr. finally gets going. He has 2 touchdowns. Kyler Murray just running, dancing around. Looks fantastic. The defense was a lot more stingy this last week. Obviously, in the second quarter, you only give up the field goal, and LA, they were driving. They were close. They're in the red zone, and you're able to keep them out of the end zone as you go into the half. That's fantastic. So, look, I told you, the Cardinals, they're going to be a frisky, fun team. I wasn't necessarily a believer in them because of that defense, but I definitely knew that Kyler Murray, he's going to be able to put up points. The question is how long can he stay healthy? You can tell there's a completely different team in Arizona when he's healthy. Right now, he's healthy. You got to be the silver winner of the weekend.
For the touchdown!
My gold team winner of the weekend, look, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. You start off your schedule against 2 of the better teams in the AFC, 2 teams that have, AFC title contending aspirations, 2 teams that have legit Super Bowl aspirations in Baltimore and in Cincinnati, and you go 2-0 against them. You win 26-25 in an albeit really sloppy game. Mahomes doesn't look great. Cincinnati makes an incredible interception. Yes, you got bailed out by the DPI. Look, it's a DPI. You can make the argument about whether it should be called in that situation or not. The DB hits the wide receiver before the ball gets to the wide receiver. That's a penalty. And if you're going to win a game, you shouldn't say sorry for winning a game, right? I understand why Cincinnati fans are upset, but if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, you got to be ecstatic. Travis Kelce didn't look all that great in that game. He only had 1 catch, I believe, only a couple yards. Obviously, as you're going through, it's a tight game. It's a game that you're going to need. And so now, not only are you already up 2 games on Cincinnati and on Baltimore, but really you're up 3 because you have the tiebreaker over both of those teams. These are huge games to win early that are going to have major playoff implications later on. So those are 2 big wins there for Kansas City. Some honorable mentions. Obviously, Kansas City getting the gold. I would say that the Chargers, you feel like finally you have a coach that has unlocked Herbert. You got 26-3 over the Panthers. Obviously, Johnson had a couple touchdowns in that game as well. Defense looks like it's firing all cylinders. Jim Harbaugh just wins. You got to be ecstatic about that. If you're the Seahawks, obviously Connor and I, we're going to go into much greater detail on our recap of the Seahawks-Patriots game. But if you're a Seahawks fan, you're 2-0. You went on the road. You won in Foxborough. This Patriots team is clearly better than most people gave them credit for, at least when it comes to running the football. You got the job done. That's awesome. The last honorable mention that I'm going to throw in there, the Minnesota Vikings. You're 2-0. You just beat the 49ers 23-7. You were able to take care of business. I understand that there's some injuries over there in San Francisco, and it doesn't look like the 49ers are completely on track, but you were getting after Brock Purdy, who, no matter what anyone else says, he is a damn good quarterback in the NFL. He might not be a top 5 guy, but I'll tell you right now, he's definitely on the fringe of the top 10 if he's not already in it. You're able to get the job done. Justin Jefferson looked fantastic again. The 97-yard touchdown play was incredible. Sam Darnold looks like what everyone thought he was going to be coming out of college, so you got to be ecstatic about that.
For the touchdown!
Jumping into the losers now as we go through it. I'm going to start the exact same spot I started the winners at, and that's in Dallas. Dallas lost 44-19 to the Saints, 1-1. It looks like it's the same old Cowboys, right? Like when they're playing an inferior opponent, they go in, they lay the wood on them, they blow them out. They absolutely dog-walked Cleveland last week. And then when they go up against a team that, hey, look, I didn't think the Saints were going to be as good as they were this early. I honestly thought they would be floating right around 500 right now. They look like they can't be stopped. The Cowboys really struggled defensively. You have to find a way to slow down that attack. You cannot give up 4 touchdowns to Alvin Kamara. You cannot give up 35 points in one half. Offensively, it felt like whenever you needed a big play, if CeeDee Lamb didn't get it, you didn't get a big play. And now that's great. You have this star wide receiver that you can lean on, and he does a lot of big things for you. But right now, man, the Cowboys, it just feels like it's more of the same. And then it's always worse if the Cowboys, the Yankees, or the Lakers lose, because then you get dog walked by everyone the rest of the week. So if you're a Cowboys fan, that's a big loss. It feels like maybe that could be something that comes into play if you're a wild card team. Obviously, Philly looked okay last Friday night. We'll see how they look Monday night when they take on the Atlanta Falcons. But if you're the Dallas Cowboys, it's got to feel like you are a bronze loss there.
For the touchdown!
My silver medal for loss this week goes to the Indianapolis Colts. They lose 16-10 to the Green Bay Packers. The part that's got to be frustrating here for the Colts fans is you're going up against the Packers with their backup quarterback, Malik Willis, who's only been there for, 2-3 weeks? He's been there less than a month. The Packers make the trade for him with the 7th-round pick right at the end of training camp to get him over there to be the backup. You feel like you're going into that game, hey, we're walking into one that we should win, and we should win this one really easy. And you didn't look all that good. All the bad Anthony Richardson plays in the first half, it really feels like he's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of player, where you see why Anthony Richardson was drafted as high as he is. I mean, that throw last week to Pierce, unbelievable. In this game, there's a 4th down where he scrambles, and there's no way that Anthony Richardson should have gotten that first down. Most quarterbacks in the NFL don't. And yet he finds a way to run through a tackle and still dive forward and get the first down. But if you're the Indianapolis Colts, you had legit and still do have legit aspirations of winning the AFC South. And I don't think that they're foolhardy. It's just, can Anthony Richardson figure it out? And he's got to be one of the most frustrating quarterbacks in the NFL right now, because you see the great, but then you also see the bad. And it's almost like early Josh Allen, where one drive, it's great Josh Allen. It's like, oh my God, look at what he can become. And then the inaccuracy issues rear its head. The stupid decisions rear their head the next drive. And it's like, okay, maybe we have the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. Obviously, you don't. You're not the Carolina Panthers. But if I'm a Colts fan right now, it's got to be frustrating that you can't get more consistent play out of him. at the same time, he really is still a rookie. He only played in 4 games last year. And in one of the games that he played in, he had to leave early because he got hurt. So if you're a Colts fan, that feels like one that you should have had. And then you could have kept pace with the Texans. You'd only be, well, you'd be basically 2 games back, but you'd still get the Texans later on in the season with an opportunity to kind of even the score there. Now you're basically 3 games down to the Texans at 0-2, and you're going to have to climb your way out. Thankfully for you, Jaguars suck too. And so you're not too cellar dwelling. But right now, if you're the Indianapolis Colts starting 0-2, look, in the division, Titans are 0-2 as well. So it's not a killer, but I think you've already kind of relegated yourself to, hey, we're going to have to get into the playoffs in the wild card. And you are a legit playoff team if you can figure it out. It just feels like that's when you probably should have had.
For the touchdown!
My gold medal when it comes to loser here, look, it's the Baltimore Ravens. You were up by 10 with less than 5 minutes to go in this game against the against the Las Vegas Raiders, and you couldn't get the job done. You could not get the job done. You were up by 10 points to a team that you should cakewalk through, and you were unable to close. You're now 0-2. You've lost to Kansas City, so really you're 0-3 to them. Buffalo, they're 2-0 right now. Houston, they're 2-0. So you're looking at a possibility to where if you're even able to win the AFC North, which it's a tall task right now, obviously, you've got Cleveland at 1-1 and you've got Pittsburgh at 2-0. I think you can catch Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is going to be the ultimate Mike Tomlin team where it's just, we're going to go exactly 500 and we're going to win a lot of games because our defense is nasty and our offense doesn't turn the ball over. So I still think that Baltimore can win this division, but right now you put yourself in a hole where you need to go on a run, a legitimate run, because probably the top team in the AFC is going to have 3 losses, maybe best case scenario 4. So if you want that bye, you really can't lose again. And this team is too good to be 0-2. And I understand that you're a size 11 cleat away from winning in Kansas City, or at least having the opportunity to win in Kansas City. But these early losses for teams that are trying to get into the playoff and really trying to make a deep run in the playoffs, which at this point, Baltimore really needs to, it's frustrating. And it'd be one thing if you're like the 49ers, where the 49ers are 1-1, and it's like, well, our stud running back, he got hurt. Nick Bosa got hurt. We've got some injuries piling up. Right now, it doesn't really feel like you have those injuries piling up. It just feels like you thought the game was over because it's Gardner Minshew and the Raiders, and you're going to win this game. So you took your eye off the ball and you let them come back. That's the type of loss, especially at home, that really just, it's inexcusable. You have to find a way to win that football game. You're up by 10. It's the 4th quarter. There's only a few minutes left. You've got to get it done. As we go through, obviously some other losers. I don't want to harp too much on the Bengals, but you're 0-2. You lost to Kansas City. Obviously, you competed with Kansas City well, but now it really just shows why you can't take your eye off the ball and lose to a team like New England. You got to find a way to win that football game because now you're 3 games down. So that's always going to be rough there for Cincinnati. Rams, the only reason I kept you off this list is you're losing because everyone's just hurt. Everyone's hurt. Puka's hurt. Cooper Kupp got hurt. Your O-line's hurt. You're all banged up. The problem is when you fall into that type of hole, I mean, you're 0-2 right now. The leader of your division has 2 games up on you. Feels like they're going to be a pretty good team. San Francisco is eventually going to get right. It's tough to start down that much. Jacksonville, you haven't won since, I think, Thanksgiving weekend. It's been a long time. And you're playing a Cleveland Browns team that got absolutely housed the week before. Deshaun Watson looked a little bit better at quarterback, but not that much. Feels like Cleveland was able to figure out their defensive problems from the week before. You can't lose that game if you're Jacksonville. The only savior for Jacksonville is that everyone in the AFC South, except for the Houston Texans, are 0-2. That being said, if you're Jacksonville, you probably are kind of now like the Colts, where you're not looking at winning the division. you're looking at how do we just find a way into the playoffs. The last loser that I really saw on here that really sticks out to me is you're going to go with the Panthers. I mean, you just got housed. You don't look good. There's talk of your quarterback being comparable to Jamarcus Russell, the biggest bust of all time. So there's got to be some pain there as a Carolina fan. Oh, by the way, you also have the worst owner in sports.
For the touchdown!
As we go through, we kind of got our little Monday wrap up here. I just want to touch on a couple other things. Coming from the Dolphins-Bills game, obviously Bills win that one on Thursday night, 31-10. All anyone could really talk about was Tua and his injury afterwards. It doesn't sound like he's going to retire. He's going to go to some medical specialists. And I think if you are on X or you're a talking head and you're going out there and you're telling Tua what he should and shouldn't do, I just think to me that's going to fall on deaf ears. Tua has to make this decision on his own. I know what I would choose, right? You go through, you have that many concussions. I mean, look, let's call a spade a spade. That hit that he suffered that gave him the fencing position and the concussion, it's kind of a normal hit, right? And with the amount of concussions that he's had, it's really stinking scary when you see something like that. And there have been a lot of people over the years who have medically retired after all the concussions, and then you see the long-lasting effects of it. Now, if Tua wants to continue to play, that's his choice, right? And I'm not going to attack him for continuing to play. And if he retired, I wouldn't attack him for deciding not to play. I see both sides of the coin, right? As a player, all your whole life you've been a football player, and that's been, a part of your identity. And you get this gladiator mentality of, I need to go out there and I need to put my body on the line, and that's what I do, and I'll be okay. And I understand that there's a school of thought of like, well, hey, he's in his 20s. He's really young. He's not wise enough to make the decision. So you need other people to come in and talk to him. Well, that's why he's going to these medical professionals. And I think that if they get to the point where it's like, hey, dude, it's really not safe for you, they'll lay it out for him to the point where he knows he needs to retire or will retire, right? But it comes to the point of where you're starting to see more and more players wear the Guardian caps. And I wore them when I was in college. Obviously, Jabril Peppers is the one that sticks out to me. I was watching the Seahawks game, Patriots game. And so I saw that he had his Guardian cap on. And maybe that's enough to help Tua. I hope it is. I would love to see him continue to play. Not because I think he needs to play or that he's soft if he retires. It's because I like watching Tua play football. Like, he might not be a top 5 quarterback, but he's definitely in the conversation for being a top 10 quarterback. It's very unfortunate to see a player's career end because of injuries. And I think maybe not the most frustrating part, or maybe it's the scariest part, is all of his injuries for the most part have been on national TV. So everyone gets a chance to see it. These concussions are why a lot of, parents now in youth leagues are starting to not have their kids play football anymore. Or, when I was a kid, you started playing tackle football in 2nd and 3rd grade, and that wasn't abnormal. Now it almost seems like there's more and more kids that aren't playing tackle football until middle school, high school age. It's a lot more two-hand touch or flag football. Maybe even they're wearing the pads, but it's still a flag football type of game. And I do think that's good in the long run. The thing that people don't always understand about concussions is it's not always the big hits. It's not the crazy shot that you take from the safety that's bearing down on you all the way from the other side of the field. It's the constant contact of just hitting your head again and again and again and again. And the NFL has done a lot of things, to get the head out of the tackle. When I was brought up playing football, you were told to put your face on it. Like, you put your face mask square in their chest to make the tackle. Now it's more of a rugby style tackle where you're putting your head behind. So they're not even running through, and you're not even using your neck to help, keep the person in place. You've got your head completely out of the tackle if you do it correctly. And so there are a lot of things from the youth level all the way up to the high school, college, NFL levels where the game is getting safer than it was. But whenever we see a big time injury, like what happened with Tua on Thursday night, it seems to kind of rear up all those old conversations. And there's definitely a lot of fear in a lot of fans' minds and in their hearts of, oh, yeah, this is a very, very dangerous sport at times. And sometimes scary things happen. So I wish the best to Tua and to his family, and I hope that he makes the correct decision for his long-term health. And if they are able to sit down with doctors and, specialists, and they say, Tua, you're going to be okay. We're going to do these things here to keep you safe so that you can play, then I'm all for it. And if there isn't a way to keep him safe, it'll just be one of those bummers where it's like, what could have been and what could his career have been if it wasn't derailed by injuries, much like, someone tearing their ACL or breaking their leg or hurting their shoulder. That being said, I want Tua to do the things that is the safest for him. And I'm very grateful that he was able to get paid. So now one of the factors weighing into him playing isn't, I need to continue to play so I can make generational wealth for my family, for my kids, and for my kids' kids. He's already done that. So now it's just a choice of, do I want to play, and can I play in a way that's safe, or is it time to retire and hang him up? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Obviously, we're going to bring the weekly recaps. We're looking at maybe possibly doing something, maybe a preview of the week ahead or something like that. We're figuring it out here over at In the Trenches. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys have a wonderful day.
Oh, look at this run. What a run. Marshawn Lynch still on his feet. Has blockers now. He's dancing his way for the touchdown.